What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Acts of Creation. Today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite Tool songs, Push It. It's definitely a really long track and one of my most requested songs. I've been putting it off for a little while just because when you learn your favorite song, sometimes that song tends to lose some of its luster, but I've had to perform it live recently, so I've wanted to share with you how I play it and how I pull it off live. So before we get started, we are in a drop D tuning. As always, with every Tool song, I'm playing a VGS guitar with my Evertune bridge installed on it, which is fantastic. I'm running through Line 6 HD Pro, and the amp model that I'm using is the Highway 100, the gain rollback, and I'm using a Line 6 distortion pedal modeler before it with the amp turned down. It gives me a nice semi-dirty, not too aggressive, overly metal heavy sound tone, because you don't need it for this song besides one or two little spots, and even that you can kind of get away with not having an ultra metal preset going on. I'm not going to change presets as we go through this. I'm just going to stay on this one. If you watch the playthrough, which the link is down below in the description, as well as the link for the tabs, I definitely recommend downloading those and following along if you can, or popping on the song and listening to it. It helps a lot to visually see the music go by. You'll see me stepping on a bunch of pedals, changing a bunch of presets, and I don't do that when I play live. I try to keep it very minimal. If I have to roll the gain back, I'll just use the volume pedal instead. So I just kept it the way it was with the playthrough because I wanted to see how it sounded. Not too bad, but not how I would normally do it. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Let's get started with the song. So we are in 6/4, and just a nice steady pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? And that's the main riff of the song, and we're on our D string. We're going to pull off from 10 to 9 and move from 7, 5, 7, and in between that I'm going to keep a nice 8th note pulse of open notes between it all. And notice that I'm bending the 5th fret. Experiment with how far you want to bend, half step, quarter step, whole step. Whatever you think sounds best and you like. You could even do a little pre-bend if that's what you think sounds good. So we're going to do that 10 times, and then the vocals kick in over that 10 times. At the end of the 10 time, we power chord, and we're in drop D, so our power chords are 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9. Alright, so we have... and then the riff starts over. And you do it 4 more times before the verse kicks in. But this time, we're still counting 6, but we're making 1, not 10 anymore. It's now 7. So the riff goes 7, 5, 7, 10, 9. Alright? So we do that 4 times, and then the verse starts. And then when the verse starts, essentially, you just hold out the octave or the 7, and then pick the riff off, so you can sing the riff in your head if you want. So essentially you're just removing some of the beginning of it and then picking it back up on the 10 and 9. And you just keep that going. And that goes 4 times. And then you remove the 8th note pulse, and then you start playing power chords. And you can do that 4 times as well. You can also do it twice and just go back to the other riff if you wanted to. And then after that, you do the main riff again, just a little bit louder. Pick a little bit harder, maybe bring up your gain a little bit, however you see fit. So we have, I'll play that whole section for you 4 times each. So we have... Right, and then you go right into essentially the chorus riff. You notice I add a little palm muting. I just played that last 4 times a little more aggressive. And then that leads us to the chorus, which is pretty simple. We're going to go 7, 5, back to 7. We're going to mimic the main riff of the song, it's just power chords on our low string now. You can add some slurs. You can pull off those notes, 10 to 9. I always, instead of playing the opens, I like to kind of pull off to those. I like the way that sounds. You can do that if you'd like. So that goes through, and then we're going to go back into kind of repeat a verse section, the 4, 4, and 4. Except so we play the main riff 4 times. Now again, I would definitely download the tabs, follow along with it, because it just makes it easy to kind of visualize these parts once you get through them. So we play the main riff 4 times. And now basically all we're going to do is we're going to hold out this octave, and essentially the verse goes for 6, and then the vocals measure of 6, and then the swell is going to come in for a measure of 6. So we can go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you need some delay, you need to find the right setting. Kind of swell in with your open A. You can add some pick scrapes or whatever noise you like to be. You can be very ambient, and you can, add to it what you see fit. So we're going to go through that 4 times with the swelling. And then we're going to, again, play the motif or the main riff a little more aggressive. Right? And you can add power chords like we did before. If you wanted to, and that's going to lead back to the chorus. Alright, 4 times, and then you go back to the main riff again. There's a lot of repetition in the first half of this song, except this time you want the main riff to be aggressive, a little more distortion, again play it a little heavy, all open. And you're going to go through it 12 times. Vocals, main riff starts singing all over it, and then the last 2 times you're going to play it a little different. You're going to add the power chords on the 11th time, right? So we have, I'm not going to play all of it, and then you're going to climb up 7, 12, 14, 12. So I'll play it a couple times, and then add the power chords in those last 2 variations. You can let those ring and then play the open notes to kind of as pickup tones to them. And then we have a nice little power strumming section, 7, 6, 5, 3. And you go through it twice and you play it again slightly different. Tons of variation when you play Tool songs. So this is our rhythm. Right, that's the first time, and the second time you're going to mute. And then when you get to the 3 and 5, instead of muting the chord, you're actually just going to play dead notes. And then you do the 10-9 to kind of pick up into the next riff. So we have... And that riff is open twice, back to 3, slide up to 10. And then I pull off open there. Right? And then you're going to do that 8 times, and then you have the motif that's actually played on the second half of the song, as in the outro as well. And essentially just an octave on A. Open A and 7. Alright, so you go through that riff. Alright, that's all we're doing, and you go through that 4 times, and then you just, the song's going to break down now, so you're just going to break down the song, help break down the song, and all you're going to do is play your low power chord and open D. You go through that 6 times, hold it out for a count of 6, silent for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and so on. And definitely try to count the 6 through this whole breakdown, because it'll really help you bring in the timing of all the little ambient things that are going on. So you go through that 6 times, the bass starts strumming the noise, the strings above the nut, and then it breaks down. And then you come up, power chord on 12 of your A string. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And slide down. So you can go through that 3 times. It's just 14, slide up to 13. Vocals for a measure of 6, and then the motif comes in, and it's 14 and 15 on your G and B. Alright, that's essentially the area we're going to play. So here's variation 1. You're going to come in, again, the vocals for a measure of 6, and then if you keep counting, you'll know when to come in. And it's a dotted quarter note feel, these initial variation, right? So 3/8 notes, down, up, bum, 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 bum. That's kind of what we're going on here. So we're going to pick that's our first variation. That starts on the downbeat of 3. So again, you have the vocal of 6, and then keep counting your 6, and then this starts on the downbeat of 3. And it's 14, 15 on your B, 17, back to 15, 14, 12, 12 on your G. And then you bar on the 12th fret and pick those 2 strings out. 14 on your G. So it's silent, real ambient. And then you come in with just those 2 notes. Now you can play those, or you can play harmonics on your D and G strings on the 7th fret. And when I'm not playing the little variations, I kind of like to play the harmonics. Notes are the same, but the texture, if you will, is different between the 2. Well, obviously, because one's a harmonic, one's a fretted note, so they're going to sound a little different. And if you listen real carefully, pop off some headphones, you'll hear in the very distance, very, very quiet, this motif. And for those of you who've been requesting the live version on Salival of this song, this is where this motif comes from. Listen really carefully, and you can place it here, or you don't have to place it here. You can actually hear it better right near the end of the breakdown. And essentially, if you play a power chord on 12 of your D, and then, so it's 12, 14, and then same 2 strings, but 15, 14, a little major 3rd shape. And stay on the 14, and your ring finger goes to 17. Alright, so you have that is buried in the audio after these little variations. And like I said, it's more prevalent at the end of the breakdown, and you don't even have to play them. But that's where that motif comes from, because if you listen to the Salival version, it's down an octave. And essentially that's the only difference with the live version, besides what Adam plays in the breakdown. And the whole first half of the song is essentially that, down tempo with the same chorus riffs, down tempo. Anyway, so I'm getting ahead of myself, but for those of you who want the live version on Salival, that's where this comes from. So we have that, the harmonics, And then the second variation comes in. That's the second variation. So you do the 14, 15, and then on your G string, you kind of go in groups of 2 notes. Bop, up, bop, up. 15, 14, 12, 14, 12, 12, 11. Cross string, 11, 12. 11, 14, 14, 12. And then let those 2 strings ring out the 12, 12. So now you're on your D string and B string, G string. And then you do like a little arpeggiated pattern. 14 on your G to 12, 12 on your D, 12, slide down to 11 on your D, 12 on your A. Let that ring out a couple beats, and then it's 12 on your A, 11, now a string of notes on your D string, 11, 14, 17, 19. So we have and that's a variation, and then you can play the again or the harmonics if you like. And now this is the section where this little hidden is a little more prevalent in the mix, as they say. All right, so you're gonna go. You can play that motif twice, and then the build up. Right, and then we start building up to the whole outro of the song. And so you're building up on 7, and then you play the rest of the, full 5-string power chords if you're not familiar with that. 7, 7, 7, 9, 10. And then drop it down to 5 and do some. You can bend that chord. Now you're going to tremolo pick 3 bars of 6 on the 7th fret. Alright, so 7, step up on the 6th beat, so on that 4th bar, it's this 7 for 5 beats. 12 for 1, and then just divvy it up. 14 for 3, 15 for 3, 17 for 6. Right? I'm not going to go through all that lengthwise. And then a little vibrato to that, and then come down. And so just basically bouncing back and experiment with how much of this chord you want to play. Right? It's just a full string or 5-string power chord, 7, 7, 7, 9, 10, and then same thing on 12 with some open strings, whatever open strings you want in between them. So you can either play the middle of those chords, which sounds good, or you can play the low of this one and the highs of that one, whatever you want to do. You can do your little bend on those chords and then pick it out from the high string. So if you're barring, you're getting the 5th fret of the high string as well. So it's 5, 8, 7 of that chord. Which leads us into the little mini solo. Just tremolo picking 2nd fret of your G string. You can play that on 7 on your D string if you want, but I think the timbre of the string sounds better on the G string. Measure of 6. And then hammer on trill to 3. And then for 2 more measures, you can kind of improv or go back and forth between 3 and 5. I like to go 3, 5, 3, 3, 5, 5, whatever you want to do. as you get to the end of it, you can kind of go crazy. You can do whatever you want with it. And then coming out of that, you slide up into the 12th fret. So you have this little sus chord, so 12, 12, 14. And then all of 15. And put your ring finger down and play the sus chord on 15. So 12, 12, 14, 3 15s, and then 15, 15, 17. And then 17, open 12. So on my D string, 7, 5, 5, 7. Hammer on. Right, give it a little bend, and you're gonna go through that. Very cool little section. And that's 5, 5, slide the 7, and then 9, 9, 12, 12. 7, 7, 6, 6, 9, 6, 7. Octave of A, open A, 7. Focusing, and you go through that 4 times, and then the 4th time you have the variation and the outro of that, and you're going to go 5, 5, 7. So, and then essentially a 4th on your A and D string, 7, 7. Move it down to 5. 5, 5, 4, 7, 4, open. So let me play that 4 sections, and then we're going to go into the final outro of the song. Alright, so it's 7, 7, 2, 2, 5, 5. Pull off to the open, and then play big open D5 chord. 0, 0, 0, 2, 3. And go through that a couple times. And some pick scrapes. You can add a little chug in that one section that goes on. Put a break in it, and then the chords change. 7, 3, 5. That's when the chugs come in. I'm sorry. It's a long song. 10th fret, bend it up, and then you have the very end of the song. So you have the... So it's just 3, and strumming some opens, and then through. I like to go. Alright, you do that twice, and now the bass is playing with some distorted, so it kind of holds the low end where it makes you think you want to play the riff longer. But now you're jumping up to that outro motif that I mentioned hours ago. Alright, do it twice, then bend that 7 note, let it brown, let it hang out, and release it, and then you're back in it again. And you do that 6 times in total, that's including the 2 times with the bend. And then you have this outro riff, and this is probably the most confusing part of the whole song. I've seen a lot of different tabs, and they're all different. I've seen Jones play it live, and it makes no sense. You listen to it on the album, it's really hard to hear. So this is my interpretation of what's going on and how I like to play it. If you listen real carefully, you can hear the chord changes, and just try to sync yourself up and add the rhythm that you think, again, fits the best. So we're going to play this riff 3 times. The first time is a little different, because I'm going to continue the... Instead of just playing the 12, as you'll see. So I play the open A octave, and then the 10, 8, 10, 12. And a little quick open, and then 8, 10, slide up to 12, and then instead of hitting the 07, I'm just going to play my rhythm here on the 12th fret. Alright, so that's 3 times all together. So we have this. And then I take that same outro motif, but I just change strings. So it's open D and then the octave of A. So yeah, and you retard as you go through those songs, you slow down. So it's 7, 7, 0, 10, 0. 7, 0, 10, 0, and then a sus chord on 8, so it's 8, 8, 10. And that is Push It. It's an extremely long song. It's not too hard technically, as a lot of Tool songs aren't very demanding technically, but all the variations, the subtleties, and the length and the form make it difficult to learn. So take your time with it, download the tabs, watch the playthrough if it helps, play along with the song, and as always, let me know what you come up with. So until next time, I'll see you then. Thanks a lot.